carnivore is a fantastic intervention. And the people who have the greatest success with carnivore are the ones who basically react to everything. And now you try carnivore and your whole life opens up. So obviously you think, well, that's got to be the solution, and plants are evil and toxic and so forth. But it's not that simple.
Hey friends, welcome back to Meet the Truth. I'm Lauren Johnson. Today we're talking all about the Ancestral diet, what it really means, how it stacks up against modern nutrition, and why it could be the missing piece in our health puzzle. Joining me today is Dr. Sten Ekberg. He's a former Olympic decathlete, a chiropractor, and one of the clearest voices out there when it comes to health and food. He has spent years teaching how to heal with real whole food from a science perspective. So if you've ever wondered whether eating the way our ancestors did could actually fix what's broken today, this conversation is for you. Let's dive in. Dr. Ekberg, you've helped so many people rethink their health starting with diet. How is it that humans thrived on an animal-based diet for thousands of years, yet somehow today, red meat is treated like the villain? What changed?
Big question there. So I think we just look at the wrong things. So humans have eaten a certain way for like you said, thousands and thousands of years. But then as we get agriculture, as we get industrialized, as we start processing foods, now all of a sudden people kind of, whatever is new, whatever has happened in the last 2 generations, that becomes the norm. And we forget that we ever had anything else. So now people think that waffles and pretzels and Pop-Tarts and seed oil condiments, all of a sudden we think that that's normal. We think that that's food. And when I tell people the 10 types of foods that they should never eat again, it's like the most common answer is, well, what else is there? It's like they really have no idea. If we go outside of packaged foods, then what is there to eat? And they really don't know. So, and then of course we get with the red meat that has started with in the 1960s, 70s with Ancel Keys, and all of a sudden the cholesterol became the villain, and anything animal-based has cholesterol, whereas plants don't, which is, of course, so ridiculous because we are animals. We make cholesterol, so it's like one of the most natural foods there are for us. But that's kind of where that came from when animal foods became associated with cholesterol.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even as a child, I remember everything switched to margarine from butter.
Oh, yeah.
And all of the low fat. So
Yeah.
I remember tubs of margarine in my refrigerator. And now we obviously don't do that anymore. And my parents don't eat like that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a big change.
It's really scary when we have a perfectly natural, healthy product. We have the lard and the tallow and the butter, and then they become villainized. And it's not like we replace them with something semi-good like a natural oil, like olive oil or coconut oil or something like that. We take the absolute worst thing we can, and that becomes recommended by doctors. So now we have a seed oil, we have a soybean oil or a corn oil or something. And as if that is not bad enough, now we partially hydrogenate it, which means that we change the chemical structure and basically turn it into plastic. And it has about the nutritional value of plastic, which of course is toxic. It's really sad that we can't even understand what nature has given us, but it's like we got to do the absolute worst with it.
It's not the way we should be going at all. Now, do you think the explosion of chronic illness we're seeing today is because we've strayed so far from what we should be eating?
That's the biggest factor, but there's so many different factors. And I often talk about the body burden. So the body has a certain resilience, a certain capacity to deal with things, to respond to things, to clean things out. And food is the biggest thing because we stopped eating things that have nutrition and we started eating things that are devoid of nutrition and that really messes with our metabolism, like all the sugars and the starches and the processed foods. So that's the biggest piece. But then we also have to add in all the pesticides and all the foreign hormones, all the added hormones. We got to add in the plastics, the endocrine disruptors, antibiotics, and all the different things that we do, not just to food, but to our environment and to ourselves. They all play a role. They all add on to that body burden. But yes, I would say that food is the biggest component of.
How do you suggest that someone decreases the burden on their body? What are the best ways to do that?
First, you cut out sugar, you cut out white flour, you all the white trash you get rid of. Um, but then you also start looking further. So you do your best to, it's not always possible or within your budget, but you do the best you can and you look for organic food. You put a water filter someplace, either on your whole house if you can, or at least on your faucet, so the stuff you're drinking. But a lot of people get chlorine in the shower water. You could absorb as much through a shower as you can from drinking 8 glasses of water. So there's so many different sources, and we just do the best we can. And then you don't spray your whole yard with Roundup and glyphosate. You limit the cleaners. For some reason, I don't understand why we're so afraid of bacteria, which are natural and have always been around us. We become germ phobics, and now we hose down every surface with toxic chemicals, and we think that something is clean when we add a layer of chemicals to it. I just never understood that notion. It's like water is what cleans things, and then if you need a little bit of solvent, then you add just enough of a cleaner, but then you wipe it off with water so it's actually clean. And then, of course, we don't have to use even a fraction of all those chemicals that we do in our homes. So I would clean up the food, I'd try to clean up the water, and then you do your best to clean up your environment. Don't add unnecessarily.
That's great advice. I've done the same thing in my home. We use peroxide in water. I don't know if that's something
Yeah.
suggested. You can mix them,
Oh, yeah,
and vinegar is
absolutely.
really good as well.
Yeah. And vinegar and just natural stuff. But of course,
Yes,
there's marketing. So we get sold all these products and we get bombarded with these messages until people think that's the only way to do it. So now people have thousands of different cleaners and they spray and they disinfect and just way too much on everything.
Mm. I want to switch focus a little bit to the carnivore diet. And I know
Okay.
you've shared a little bit about this, but what are your thoughts about when people say carnivore is too extreme? Isn't it just more closely related to how our ancestors ate?
So I started promoting a lot of keto in the beginning, and I still think keto can be okay for a lot of people for a lot of the time. But I don't necessarily believe anymore that keto or carnivore or vegan is the single best thing for anybody long term. I think carnivore is a fantastic intervention. And the people who have the greatest success with carnivore are the ones who basically react to everything. Like any type of food that you eat, you have some sort of reaction, and now you try carnivore animal products only, and your whole life opens up. So obviously you think, well, that's got to be the solution, and plants are evil and toxic and so forth. But it's not that simple because there's an equal or greater number of people who eat nothing but plants. And some of them are sick. They do it for philosophical reasons, but some are doing really, really well. So it's not about that. It's about what do our individual bodies tolerate, and what do we thrive on, and what do we do the best on for the long term. And I have come to believe that it's almost entirely about our gut biome, about the microbes, because whenever you eat something, it really doesn't do anything for you until the bacteria have processed it. So you have some digestion, but then the bacteria finish breaking it down, and they sort of package it for you. They make a lot of vitamins for you. They make short chain fatty acids for you. And it's the type of bacteria that determine basically what type of foods you can tolerate. So I think carnivore is a great intervention because it's the ultimate elimination diet. It's the least allergenic food there is because it's closely related to our own tissues. But I don't believe that it is the optimal for people to eat year in and year out. I think it's great. You try it for a month, for 3 months, for 6 months, but then you also try to build up your gut. And basically everything we know about gut, we have learned in the last 10 years. It's like 99.9% of what we know have come in the last 10 years. And we've just scratched the surface. But we know that our ancestors probably ate a lot of meat, especially in the winter season, but they probably also ate a lot of plants in the summer season. And we know that they probably had twice the total number of bacteria in their gut that we do. And they had at least twice the number of different species in their gut. And what we're seeing every time, every single time, and I've closed down my physical clinic, but we do some stuff online, and I have a clinician who has totally immersed herself in the gut stuff for the last 3-4 years. And what we're finding every time, the sicker someone is, the sicker their bacteria are. The smaller number of variety of bacteria they have, the more overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria they have. And really, really healthy people, they have wonderful, wonderful gut bacteria. And what we're learning is that it's the variety of food that build the variety of gut bacteria. And it's primarily plant foods that do this. So if you have the wrong gut bacteria, plant foods can make you really sick. And that's what makes a lot of people switch to carnivore. But I still believe long term that the optimal solution is to try to rebuild that gut and get it to a point where we can tolerate a variety of foods. Now, I'm not saying this like 100% because no one really knows. Like, there is a possibility that maybe animal foods are the best for some people forever. But based on what I know and what I'm continuing to learn, I do believe that there is a variety of things that does the best for people in the long run.
That's great. And I think this is really important to hear perspectives from people that are within the carnivore community and not fully in it, just like you, and how they see other people heal, and then that way people can make their own informed decisions. And I think that's great
Yeah,
because it's not a one size fits all thing that, certain things work for
correct.
certain people.
Yeah. And the biggest issue that I have, like a lot of people who go vegan um, and do really well for a while. I think like if I was to put one, if I had to pick one, I would go carnivore before vegan because I think that food is limited. The biggest reason to eat vegetables is to feed your gut bacteria. Your body really doesn't need them. Okay. So if you had to pick one, I would definitely go with carnivore. But there are still people who have done really, really well on vegan diets for decades and decades. So what what I don't like to see happen is this religious separation where someone goes vegan and oftentimes they do it for philosophical reasons, and now everyone who doesn't eat that becomes evil, and it's like you have to be uh, a missionary for the cause. And unfortunately, I see a lot of that in the carnivore community as well. And it's understandable. You've been feeling really lousy for years, and then you start eating carnivore and you feel wonderful. It's like you assume that, well, this has to be the perfect food for people and everyone should eat this way. And but again, I don't like that step where it becomes a religion and the only truth, because people are different. And personally, I just believe that the better gut variety that we can have, the healthier we are.
I think that's a great perspective. Now, for someone that is doing carnivore but doesn't want to stay carnivore forever and they want to build their gut bacteria, but they also react to everything, how would
Yeah.
you suggest that they start rebuilding that so they can tolerate these things again?
So this is kind of it's very tricky. It's very tricky. And we are doing some gut tests, and there are people who have been working with this for years and years and years and do nothing else, and they're really, really good at it. And what we're finding is you find something that's the biggest thing out of balance. It's either something missing or there's something there's too much of. And then based on your experience and everything, you go in and you figure out where's the starting point. And you either take something to try to kill off some of the bad guys, or you take something to start building up the good guys. But oftentimes these people, like if a normal dose is 3 capsules of something, they might have to open up a capsule and take a quarter of one capsule, and even so, spread it out over the day. So there's not an easy fix, and it's not as simple as just eating yogurt or taking a probiotic, because it's so specialized. And you have to go extremely slowly. And also, you have to start introducing some food, because you can't do it without the foods. So I would suggest you go with things that are generally very well accepted. Like fruit is generally much gentler. They don't have the same chemicals and defense mechanisms as vegetables do. And then there are some things like that are kind of in between fruits and vegetables, like avocado is technically a fruit. Olives and tomatoes are technically fruits. So then it just comes down to what the specific things that you might be sensitive to. Like some people are sensitive to nightshade, so they might not be able to have a tomato, but they might be fine with an avocado. So then you start introducing some fruits, berries, and then you kind of work your way in. But then there are some plants that are just so loaded with defense mechanisms and so potent that those would be the ones that you probably do last. Like spinach and kale are just very difficult to break down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And foods with the high oxalates and
Right.
all of those other lectins and things,
Yeah.
I personally have a very hard time with. And
Yeah.
so I eat mostly carnivore with a little bit of fruit. And I did carnivore for a full year and I used it therapeutically. I healed
Yeah.
MCAS, so I couldn't handle anything. I was allergic to everything, all the chemicals. I go
Yeah.
outside, I'm allergic, and carnivore was super helpful. But now I can tolerate a few more things. And
Yeah.
so I'm definitely not hardcore, but I think it is extremely healing. So I
Yes.
completely agree with you on that one.
Yeah. It's extremely healing if you can get rid of all the stuff that you can't break down, because everything you can't break down creates inflammation. And carnivore is the ultimate elimination diet. So that's why people have such transformative results.
And now I know that you personally tried the carnivore diet. Was it for 30 days?
I've never gone as long as 30.
Okay.
I've never made like a really serious effort. I've gone a few days, but to me, it's like my body really wants a little more variety. And maybe I haven't looked at different types of carnivore sources like fish and eggs and so forth. So I'm not a carnivore expert per se, but I've never gone really more than probably 4 or 5 days.
Okay. Great. Would you ever try it?
Again, it's like I haven't gone in like seriously with a commitment, but whenever I go a few days in, I feel it feels too similar, everything.
Yeah, it can.
How do you feel about that? Did you ever feel like it was too monotonous, or did you find variety, or your body just loved it so much?
Kind of both. So if I started feeling like this was boring, it was mostly because I just wasn't cooking things differently. So I would eat a steak and I would save leftovers. And the next morning I would fry up the steak and eat it with scrambled eggs. And I eat ground beef and I'll do ground beef bowls with scrambled eggs or smash burgers. And you can do a fried egg on top, or
Mhm.
eggs are so versatile. I eat them all the time. And then things like crispy chicken wings, you can fry them up in the air fryer, and that's, that fatty, crispy, salty that
Yeah,
you miss with the potato chips or something like that.
yeah,
So there are ways to keep it versatile so that it's not so monotonous and boring. And if you're not super strict carnivore, you can use clean like hot sauce or seasonings and
yeah,
break it up. So there are ways to do it
yeah,
that keeps things a little interesting.
yeah.
My last question is, what does the science really say about protein and fat being our body's preferred energy source?
I believe like I said, the only reason to eat plants is for your gut bacteria. And what they're really looking for, they like some resistant starch, and they love legumes. Like black beans have so many different things that feed bacterial strains that don't really like hardly anything else. So, but there's really no other reason to eat carbohydrates. We do not need them for fuel. We really don't. And protein is also not an energy source. It's a lousy energy source, and the body will burn the excess because it's there. But fat is really the fuel that we're supposed to have. And if you're a carnivore and you eat ground beef or a ribeye that has 15, 20, 25% fat in it, your macros, you're getting like 70, 80% of your calories from fat. So it's very difficult to get a whole lot of calories from protein unless you just eat lean chicken breast or rabbit meat or something like that. So fat for sure is the body's energy source. It's what it loves. If carbs are available, like if we eat a bunch of carbs, then blood sugar goes up, and by necessity, we have to burn those carbs. We have to bring that blood sugar down because you get in a coma, you die from high blood sugar. So whenever we eat a ton of, and people say, well, carbs are the preferred fuel source. No, they get burned first because it's necessary to get rid of them. It's dangerous to have high blood sugar. And that's why we have the insulin. Whenever we get a blood sugar spike, we get an insulin spike to bring the blood sugar down. And then we store all those excess carbs as fat. But if we keep eating carbs, now we never get to retrieve that fat and we gain weight. So if you're fasting or if you're eating purely, like if you're strict carnivore, you're eating protein and you're eating fat. And you don't have to have any carbs at all. The excess protein gets turned into carbs. And that's what you sort of keep your blood sugar up from. And if you're fasting, if you go past 48 hours or something, there are no more carbs stored in your body, or at least not enough to where the body is pulling from that source. So what we have are triglycerides, and the backbone of a triglyceride is glycerol, and that can be converted into glucose. So we can turn glucose into fat. We can turn protein into glucose into fat, because fat is just the storage medium. But we can't turn fatty acids into glucose. That's impossible. However, that backbone that holds the fatty acids together in a triglyceride, that's about 5% of the calories in fat. That glycerol can turn into glucose. And if you're fasting, or if you go keto, then all you need is about 5% or less of your calories from carbohydrate, right? So even if you're fasting, you're still living off of 5% carbohydrate, and that maintains your blood glucose. So there really is no reason to eat carbohydrate for fuel, for energy, for blood glucose. And an interesting point I learned from someone, they say that mother's milk has all this milk sugar for the baby, and you need to have, and that sort of proves that we need carbohydrate. Well, the fact of the matter is, the milk sugar is all for the gut bacteria, all of it. The baby actually is almost constantly in ketosis and lives almost entirely off of fat. So that sort of proves that if that's how we get into life, then that's what our physiology is all about.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah,
really interesting. I had no idea. So
yeah.
thank you. Dr. Ekberg, this was so awesome. And thank you for joining us today and giving us such a clear and empowering view of ancestral eating and how to just stay healthy. But you've given us a lot to think about, and I appreciate you coming, and thank you for talking with us.
Well, thank you.
If you loved this conversation, tap the like button, hit subscribe, and join the conversation in the comments. We've got more powerful interviews with top carnivore doctors and health experts coming soon. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.